What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. I am Bucky Brooks, and on the other end is my guy, Lance Z, stepping in for DJ. And Lance, I mean, free agency has come fast and furious. They call it the frenzy. It certainly has been that. Now that you've had an opportunity to kind of sit back, reflect, digest all the moves that you've kind of witnessed, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think right off the bat, I thought the teams that had money that needed to make moves, like the Chicago Bears, they did that. And, for me, that was like that's what first wave is for. First wave is for making the big moves with your own guys that you're the really good players that you're redoing, or, with obviously with players off of other teams. I mean, the top free agents. I thought the Bears did a really good job with that. But, I'm always interested, and we can get into some of the bigger ones. And I know we talked a little bit about, I can't remember, I think we talked a little bit about it on the first Move the Sticks that we did. And then we're following up now. I'm always interested by two things. The way teams are able to manipulate the cap with these contract redesigns, really paying guys money up front is what they're doing just to borrow from future cap space. And they're basically saying, we're going to give you the money up front. What player would say no? And then it ends up creating more cap space. Voila, you've got room to do some things. But I always find it intriguing about where some of these guys, like the big difference between, I think Cooper Kupp is going to get I don't know if anything's gone down yet, but my guess is I saw Mike Williams got $6 million. Mike Williams didn't even hit 40 catches last year. He got a year at $6 million. I'm guessing Cooper Kupp gets something like a 1 at 7.5, but it's always such a stark contrast between the 3 and 4 year deals. And if you don't get on wave one, it's a wrap. You're getting 1 year. You don't have any leverage, and you're basically saying, I'll just hit reset on free agency next year. And it's just such an interesting contrast to me between first wave and then second wave. And then finally, I consider third wave to be once you're a veteran like Steph Diggs, I'm saying, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm waiting until after this camp and that camp. I'm not getting out in the heat in July. I'm a veteran. I'll figure it out, before we break for the real camp. So that's kind of my thought on this. I mean, we can go into the individual stuff, but from a conceptual standpoint, I always marvel at if you're not first, you are last in the free agency money.
Yeah, no, it's funny how quickly it goes, right? Like if you don't get in, if you overplay your hand, yeah, you're stuck on a 1 year deal. Like there's nothing else that's going to happen for you. It's just one of those things where you have to fully assess who you are and where you are in the landscape, and you better make a decision quickly before the money gets gone. Because, when we look now, Lance, everything is a 1 year deal. The money's fine. You're still seeing guys get 1 year, $10 million deals or whatever, but you're definitely not getting a multi-year contract. If it doesn't hit the first 2 or 3 days, you're clinging to a life preserver, just hoping that you can find a spot. And I'm just kind of surprised by that, because you thought people would be a little more pragmatic in terms of their approach, but it's really all or nothing with some teams, and people are trying to basically, you're not building a program, you're building a team year to year, as opposed to trying to establish something where you have a bunch of guys that are going to be around.
I like Joey Bosa to the Bills. I think that's worth it. You just locked in Rousseau to an extension. You got Bosa that you can play on the other side, but you got to keep them healthy. That's always a big question. But I do like that signing. I thought it was interesting. I feel like the Patriots are having to pay a little bit more of a premium on some of the players, the targets that they're signing, just because they've got a Mike Vrabel, Elliott Wolf, and those guys. They got to make it a spot where guys want to go again. Right now, I'm not sure that that's one of those spots that you kind of have to pay a premium right now to get guys over there. I think that's what it feels like. And looking at some of these guarantees, I thought that was pretty interesting. I was a little surprised to see Ronnie Stanley go 3 years at $60 million. Ronnie Stanley's had so many injuries over there with the Ravens right now. 20 million. I thought Ronnie Stanley could be. So I talked about this on Houston radio before Laremy Tunsil got traded. I kind of thought he could get traded, right? Because I think they want to change the culture in that locker room. And so one of the things that I thought they might do is look at a 1 or 2 year Ronnie Stanley deal. Because once you got that in place, then you can move Laremy Tunsil out. Well, they moved him out with no Ronnie Stanley. I mean, Ronnie Stanley did a 3-year deal at $20 million a year, but this is a guy that's been hurt a lot. So I thought that's telling with what the tackle market's going to look like in not just free agency, where there's not a lot of guys. Dan Moore got paid, and I think Dan Moore's pretty average. Now you look at the draft, and it's not great at left tackle. It is not great at left tackle. So it's almost like Ronnie Stanley made out, because even though he's got these injuries, you still have to weigh his ability when healthy versus what you've got in terms of the draft and the rest of the free agency market. And I think the Ravens just said basically, look, man, we can't let you walk. We're too close. We're too close to this thing, and we can't just start over at left tackle right now.
Yeah, what's funny is Ronnie Stanley getting paid, not necessarily surprised, even though the injuries, you just understand the pedigree. And when I saw Morgan Moses get paid, I kind of felt like Ronnie Stanley was going to hit the bank. The guy who I'm kind of surprised was Cam Robinson, right? Like, just given the situation, he was traded from the Jacks to the Minnesota Vikings. By all accounts, he held that job down fairly well, replacing for Christian Darrisaw. But what I thought was going to be a big bag for him didn't materialize. And it's just one of those things that you're like, whoa, okay, what did we miss, or what's going on? Or did he overplay his hand early in free agency and then found out maybe it wasn't what I thought it was going to be when he hit the open market?
Some of it's random. Like we just got done talking about how valuable that, tackles on the free agency market are and what Dan Moore got paid, but then Cam doesn't get paid. And so, yeah, that is, and what Ronnie Stanley got despite the injuries. And sometimes it's just, if you don't get that first money, and he wasn't prioritized, if you don't get that first money, they're like, I think there are teams saying, look, we just don't value you at the number maybe that your agent values you at. And then, that's that battle between the agent having the intelligence not to follow ego, but to follow, his head, not the heart, and say, let's do this. Let's get you in a good situation. Let's get a 1-year deal, and we got to reset next year. That's what we got to do. But we got to make sure and get you taken care of. And then it becomes a battle of finding the right spot, is what you have to do. What did you think of Charvarius Ward? I think the Colts answered a big question they had at cornerback by adding him. Mm-hmm. That was one that you almost had to, they got money. They always have money. They had to spend it.
Yeah, no, look, what I liked about the move is, and we know Ballard fairly well. We know that he's going to get guys with traits and those things. But I like the fact that you pair up a cornerback who has the skills to really fit the scheme of the coordinator. Lou Anarumo wants to use a diverse scheme. He wants to mix in man and zone, play bump and off, and some of the other techniques that you use. Charvarius Ward can do those things. He played really well in San Francisco. He had a little situation. Daughter passes away that really playing heartbroken. He just wanted to get away from, the city, and he finds a way to the Midwest. And to me, it's the perfect fit. Not only will you have a motivated player playing in a situation that I would say is pretty desperate, right? When you think about the Indianapolis Colts and what is going on this year, they got to win for everyone to stay around. Like, that's kind of the mandate. That's kind of what everyone understands, from Chris Ballard to Shane Steichen to some of your prominent players. They need to win this year. So everyone has to carry their urgency into it. Ward is a really good player. He played really well. Really excited to see what happens as he develops as that CB1 for the Colts.
Yeah, and the Texans traded a 6th-round draft pick for Ed Ingram today. It's interesting. I go back and I start seeing the names of guys that I wrote up a few years back, and I didn't love Ingram like the Vikings did. I was not was not a fan, and I think I ended up maybe being right on that. But now he's got a chance to hit reset with the Texans, and they are a desperate team on the inside. They traded for Ed Ingram, a sixth rounder. They added Laken Tomlinson. They're basically trying to get depth and competition in there, and I'm not sure they're done. I think they're done in free agency, but I think they still have to spend a draft pick either at tackle or guard in there. So, it's interesting watching some of these teams say, look, we're going to use our late draft picks as free agency, basically. And we're going to get some guys who are not going to go through the same rookie, some guys who are already pros. They know how it's done. They may be a little limited athletically, or maybe their talent level's just average, but we'd rather get a guy. I think that's what the Texans are saying right now. Let's go get some veterans like Laken Tomlinson and Ed Ingram. And another guy that's on the market now, and, I'm interested to see what happens. He just got released, and that's 13 minutes ago, and that's Garrett Bradbury. He's more of a zone scheme center. He is not a real big guy. He's not real strong for a center. He's kind of short arm. So he's a little bit limited. You could see him over there with the Patriots, I suppose, because they just got rid of David Andrews. But he's another one who's a first-round pick who now finds himself on the market.
Yeah, now Garrett Bradbury, someone coming out of NC State when he was in the draft, he was super athletic, and you're right. And the lesson to learn from Bradbury is the importance of fit in scheme. How does a player fit? How does a player's talents fit within a designated scheme? And it just seemed like it wasn't the proper match for him. Hopefully he goes somewhere we can make it happen and kind of utilize the talents that he has. But it's one of those things that we always talk about when you and I are grading. We're grading for the entire league and not necessarily for a specific team. And so we can love a player and the tools that he has. But, man, if he doesn't go to a team that allows him to really utilize everything on his tool belt, he ends up being not a wasted draft pick, but a draft pick that doesn't live up to the status that he had.
Yeah, I'm curious. Here's some of the top guys who are still available right now. And there's some names on here now. I'm going to pick and choose some. Well, we'll start at the top. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. Do you feel confident that Aaron Rodgers is playing again this year?
I mean, I feel like all the attention he has to play just because of that stuff. And now I'm not confident that he's going to play well or just going to play at a high level, but I'm fairly confident that he's going to play. Otherwise, why take us through all of this, Lance? Like, why take us through him on the beach running around like David Hasselhoff on Baywatch? You know what I'm saying? Like, why make us endure all of that? If he wants to play, he's going to do it. And, of course, he's going to milk it. He is James Harden on the dribble, like waiting for the shot clock to go down before he lets us know where he's going to play. It's not necessarily fair to Russell Wilson or some of the other people that are waiting because they have to kind of wait for Aaron Rodgers in the pecking order. But, look, that's what he does. Does he have something to offer? I think it depends. When I look at the situation, if he goes to Pittsburgh, I think he could probably be at his best in Pittsburgh because Mike Tomlin is going to hold his feet to the fire when it comes to some accountability issues and those things. If he goes elsewhere, I don't know if the head coach has enough cachet to make Aaron Rodgers kind of fall in line with the team. And I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is a bad teammate, but look, he has a strong personality and he has an ego based on the fact that he's a 4-time MVP, and quarterbacks operate like that. When you're a 4-time MVP, you want to have a large voice and a big voice in how we're going to play, what kind of scheme we're going to utilize. Whereas if you don't have that pedigree and those accolades, you kind of are more complicit with what the head coach wants. So we'll see what it would look like if he goes to Pittsburgh. I know this. The Steelers have some weapons on the outside that need to be tapped into. When we think about DK Metcalf and George Pickens, it's just a matter of, can Aaron Rodgers give them enough to allow this offense to fully realize its potential?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's the only fit for him. I think it's good to get back to a blue-collar town, kind of like Green Bay was. You go to get out of New York. I think the Giants are a bad fit for him. You got a head coach who may be a lame duck head coach. Like it's just a bad situation. I think that Pittsburgh is the situation. You got two guys on the outside that can play. Can Rodgers push the ball? Still, we'll see. But I love what you said about Mike Tomlin because I totally agree. You've got some dudes on the defensive side of the ball, but you got to really the culture is Mike Tomlin. And Mike Tomlin has been steady Eddie all the way through for as long as he's been there. And he will hold you accountable. Mike is not for the BS.
Mm-mm.
And I think that's what Aaron Rodgers needs right now. And I think you can't let him have the same latitude that you once did in Green Bay and then with the Jets. It's got to be tightened up. So that's the best spot for him to be his best if he's going to be. And with Russ, I just think, Russ is just going to kind of get the leftovers, I think, and it's going to pop. It feels like that's how it's been with Russ, although he does have a nice paycheck still coming from Denver. So good for Russ on that one. But I just feel like he's just going to, I guess we'll take I guess Russell Wilson is the last pick at the playground. But so that's probably not going to be great for him in terms of where he has to go. But he can still be, I think he's a guy that can still be, it'd be great if you had him as a really good backup for a young quarterback, but I don't know that that's going to be the case.
Man, I think it'd be so hard for him to be the celebrity quarterback as a backup quarterback.
Not everyone can do it.
Yeah, he comes with a lot, and I think he's actually a really good team dude. And I am surprised because I thought he did a solid job in Pittsburgh in terms of like just fitting in to the team and trying to fit into the fabric of the team and the organization and the city and all of that. It just didn't work out to the degree, but I can't completely blame him. They fell apart at the end. Some of that is the defense didn't hold up and do its part. But regardless, if you're the Steelers, one, they can't keep languishing, I want to say in mediocrity, but based on Steelers fans and how they're used to winning, given the 6 Super Bowls and all that they have. Yeah, at some point they got to kind of get over the hump, or they're going to have to kind of change the way that they go about doing business. But speaking of business, it's time for Hot or Not, brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Lance, we are going to break down 4 teams that have kind of been very, very active in free agency or on the trade market. They just kind of revamped their squad. And I want to start right where you are, H-Town, putting it down. Look, man, it's at the bottom of the sheet, but what about the Houston Texans? Because your ears on the street. What are you hearing? What do you think about the moves that the Texans have made to this point?
I mean, the moves are basic moves. It's moves to you're basically just solidifying the roster. They didn't have a lot of money to work with once they traded Laramie Tunsil. They picked up some more money. Initially, they needed to restructure Nico Collins' deal to get some money to work with. And now this is about Sheldon Rankins, who's been there before. They're bringing him back. Mario Edwards, they're bringing him back. Derek Barnett, they're bringing him back. Justin Watson, it's a nice veteran. They're kind of shuffling the deck at wide receiver. They've got a bunch of guys, I think, that are 4s and 5s on most good teams. Mm-hmm. And so what they're basically doing is just shuffling with new wide receivers and seeing if there's going to be more they can get out of those guys. Tank Dell is going to be out for at least this year, which is going to be tough. But I thought the C.J. Gardner, most of these are just, hey, let's fill in our roster. Let's fill in our roster with as good of players as we can possibly find. And that's what they've done. Laken Tomlinson, to me, is just, he's competition. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson, there's a reason he's going from team to team to team. I think he's tough to deal with. He's got big personality, and he's not going to be for everyone. And he may never be a long-time guy in any one spot. That's the reality. However, he can play. And they traded Kenyon Green, who they were absolutely done with as a first-round busted guard. They traded him in exchange for Chauncey Gardner. And for me, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And for me, that really takes care of a big need for them, which is a guy on the back end who's a little bit versatile and that can handle, some coverage responsibilities, where Jalen Petry's a little more static and Jimmy Ward's not staying healthy. Well, now you got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who can play up top if you need him to. He can play in the slot. So, and he's got a little bit more cover skills. So you got a little bit more versatile as a defense with him. I like it. And, you got a couple dogs, Aziz Al-Shair and Will Anderson, who are the leaders in the defensive side. So you got guys who can handle his personality, I think. And that's important too.
Yeah, in fact, I look at it differently. I look at it as more of a positive, his personality, because when you look at the last two teams that he was involved with, the Detroit Lions and then the Philadelphia Eagles, respectively, like he changes the tenor of how you get down in the back end. And the Eagles had him, let him go, and they missed him. That's why they brought him back. And that dog really reappeared. He is a great communicator in terms of how he operates in the middle of the field. He got some nastiness and some swag to him that I think his teammates feed off of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I think it's a strong personality that you must manage. But look, D'Amico Ryans doesn't appear to have any issue barking back when he's surrounded by dogs. I think he's okay with it, and I think his team benefits from kind of being a little edgy in H-Town.
Oh yeah, and when you have a Will Anderson setting the tone on that side of the ball, I mean, that guy is all ball, and he's going to let you know. He's going to talk. He's going to they have guys in there who it's their locker room on the defensive side of the ball. So I think he'll fit in, and most importantly, they're trying to get over the hump. Houston's trying to get over the hump, and they need another playmaker on the back end. But for the most part, though, Buck, when I look at their free agency, I think it's all right. You're mostly Gardner Johnson was a trade. He was not a free agent. Christian Kirk was a trade. You know what I mean? The rest of these guys are, hey, we got spots to fill on the roster. A lot of them are returning champions. Like Jeopardy. Our returning champion is Tramon Smith.
Yeah.
He's been here before. They brought him back. Sheldon Rankins been here before. Let's bring him back. MJ Stewart, he's been there, not been there, been there.
Yeah, it is something funny because you're talking about a team that understands their personnel. They have been able to kind of get it done in the locker room in terms of like the people that have been there. They know them, they bring them back, and they've had a lot of success. But speaking of the locker room, and one of the more intriguing storylines that we have is Mike Vrabel returning home to New England. The prodigal son returns to kind of help this team move past a disastrous 2024 campaign. And what I love that the Patriots have done is they appear to have gone all in on bringing glue guys back to New England, meaning guys that may not be high-end players, but guys that certainly have the temperament and the talent to fill key roles. When you look at what the Patriots have done, what are your thoughts?
Well, the first thing that stood out to me was Josh Dobbs. And he did a 2-year, $8 million deal, basically 1 year's guaranteed, $3.8 million. But I thought it was curious because, they're big on Joe Milton over there. And Joe Milton had a big preseason game, and it came out that they're willing to entertain trading him. I think Milton would love to get to a team where he's got a shot because he really doesn't have a shot playing behind Drake May unless things have gone horribly wrong for New England, and everyone will be out then. But I thought that was – I think it's interesting because I wonder if the Patriots already have some initial interest in Milton, Joe Milton. So that was a little bit curious. You mentioned Mac Hollins, glue guy, great personality, fun guy, good for a locker room. Did much more as a receiver than I expected in Buffalo, but he's kind of limited. Morgan Moses, you talked about that a little earlier. They got to have tackle. You grab Morgan Moses. I don't think it changes, though. You still need another tackle. It probably with the 4th pick of the draft. And then, you just tighten up the defensive line with Milton Williams and Harold Landry. I like it. I mean, you want to be more competitive in there. And Milton Williams signed a 4-year deal with $51 million fully guaranteed. So basically that's a 3 to 4. That's going to be a 3-year deal at least, and maybe a 4-year deal. So they're hoping he is there as one of the linchpins of that defense by the time they hopefully turn the corner and get back to being, a competitive AFC East team. So Carlton Davis, I like Carlton Davis. He's physical along the outside, can press and run with big wide receivers. So I kind of like what they did. I mean, they had money to spend, and you mentioned the glue guys, but there's some dudes that, Landry can still rush it a little bit. Morgan Moses can hang in there. Milton Williams is a good player, and Carlton Davis is a good corner. So, I kind of like what they did.
Yeah, no, I mean, they've been very effective. They've done a really good job. And I would say they freed themselves up to take the best player available at all of those respective draft spots when they come to it. We talked about left tackle, offensive tackle. They need to address it. We'll see if they're able to get it done. We're talking about these teams that have really attacked free agency. Just trying to get some of your thoughts on maybe some of the most active teams in free agency. And a team that is active, but active in a different way, has been the San Francisco 49ers. We've almost seen one of these liquidation sales where you go to the furniture store and everything is got the slap-ons, 50% off, 75% off. We just got to get it out of here. Stores closing in a month, you got to go. And so they got rid of some really good players. Deebo Samuel, Kyle Juszczyk is gone. Javon Hargrave, Drew Greenlaw. We talked about Travaris Ward. I mean, Talanoga Hufanga is gone. I mean, a lot of players that, look, man, they earned their stripes with the Niners. What are your thoughts when you look at the Niners and what they're trying to do as a reset is on the horizon?
I mean, it looks like they're just leaning into the fact that it's time for the reset. Like you said, there's no other way around it. Debo's gone. You got another expensive wide receiver there right now in Brandon Ayuk. We'll see how long Kittle still has in terms of, being an NFL tight end. I mean, he's still playing at a high level. But you're getting ready to pay Brock Purdy, and you're going to pay him a lot. But boy, Brock Purdy feels like a guy that he's been a good player over there, but he needs guys around him. So you got an expensive running back with Christian McCaffrey, and it's one of those luxuries. It's hard. You can have that luxury when you got a great team and you think Christian McCaffrey is going to put you over the top and win a Super Bowl. But once you don't win a Super Bowl and you got to start liquidating, everything must go, as you said. Everything must go. Kyle Juszczyk gone. Javon Hargrave gone. Dre Greenlaw, man, that's a heartbeat guy. He's gone. Travaris Ward, as we mentioned, gone. Hufanga, who can really play, but the injuries were a concern in college. They're a concern now in the pros. Aaron Banks, starting guard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at who they signed, it's like, ugh.
I know.
It's a bunch of 1 year just Band-Aid guys.
Yeah, just trying to figure out a way to get it done. And some of this is due to the fact that they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. They're going to have to pay him. They're going to have to pay him a bunch of money. If I'm Brock Purdy is like, I am getting $50 million plus because for 3 seasons you've had me on these peanuts deals. It's time for me to get paid. I want to get paid. I'm curious to see what that looks like in terms of paying the quarterback. But I'm also curious to see when the Niners kind of had the liquidation sale. We can talk about some of it being salary cap driven. But to me, it also felt like it was culture driven in terms of Deebo Samuel. We saw the sideline incidents where he goes at the kicker. We saw Brandon Ayuk have some issues where they had to send him in because he didn't wear the right shorts. When everyone was wearing one color, he decided to wear another color. And it just felt like this team, coming on the heels of losing a Super Bowl, they just never clicked and got back together from a chemistry and a continuity standpoint. Lance, you've been around this a long time, and your dad coached for a long time. Talk about the importance of signing free agents that fit the fabric of the team.
I mean, it's everything. It's everything. And sometimes it's like the transfer portal. I remember there were college coaches who told me when transfer portal really got popping, they said, hey, portals, we may lose some. He said, we may pick up guys, but don't forget, we may lose some guys in portal. We can also portal some guys out of here. And that's something that a lot of college teams are now getting rid of the guys that they really don't want. Well, right now, with teams, you're starting to see Houston Texans they've made moves with DeMeco Ryans because they wanted to get their culture a certain way. They're still working on it. In San Francisco, you go only so far, and then you got to make some changes. If it's not good enough, and if the culture's not right, and you start having too many big personalities, and you don't feel like you're all headed in the same direction, that's a problem. The Pittsburgh Steelers. For years, my dad was with the Steeler team, and I asked him, I said, what's it like in the locker room? He goes, we got a lot of leaders. And he said, it's a self-patrolling locker room. But once some of those guys are gone, once some of the glue guys are gone from the defense for them, you didn't have as much patrolling and so some things got sideways. We know they've had a bunch of issues with wide receivers. So, but he made the point to me that when you're in that locker room, you got to have the right guy in the room for every position group. It helps. And then whoever the alphas are on each side of the ball, and then a coach coaches that are respected. It takes a lot. And if you don't have that, now with the money that's in there, egos start tripping, and it's, it can go sideways quick. I mean, the Niners look like they had dynasty stuff potentially. Now it shakes out and they're done. I mean, it looks like a wrap for the Niners. They got at least the version that we knew. It's a wrap for them. And so now they've got some good players still, but they've got some rebuilding to do. And once you know it's not good, Bucky, once you know it's toxic, if you don't cut that out, if you don't get rid of that toxic stuff, you can roll with it if you want, but all it does is eventually, it's not just because a guy can play, it doesn't mean it's beneficial to you. So I think it's hard sometimes to get rid of guys that can play, but that don't fit the culture that you want or causing problems in the locker room. And it's just the fans don't get it all the time. They're upset because it's like a Madden game to them. You just got rid of a guy who's a 92 rating. But you know what I'm saying? But that's not real life. And you know that, Bucky. This isn't a Madden rating. You got personality scores and things like that you have to account for that we don't see that in Madden. I don't know. It's pretty lifelike. Maybe they do have that in Madden now. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's funny because we talk about this culture and how they're trying to repair culture. But I got to tell you, man, when I look at the Denver Broncos, Sean Payton is certainly building up a culture. How impressed are you with the moves that they made in free agency?
I think. Well, I like re-signing DJ Jones. I think he's good in the middle. Love Dre Greenlaw. The same reason that DeMeco Ryans went and targeted Azeez Al-Shaair for a certain level of toughness. I think Denver is saying we got to get Dre Greenlaw in here because he'll help unlock some of the young guys with our defense. Hufanga can ball if he's healthy. There's no question. Mm-hmm. But the one that I really like is Evan Ingram and once again, there's a guy that's risk reward because of injuries in the past. But when Evan Ingram is right, we've all been, I don't know about you, but I've been, let's see, Colston Loveland. Warren make it here? It's been tight end. We're not going tight end anymore. I don't see them drafting a tight end in the first round after giving Evan Ingram this deal. So I really like the fact that they've made them. Now they could still go a lot of 12 personnel. Mm-hmm. They could go another tight end, but they don't have to. I like teams that make moves that make them less predictable on draft day.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on all of that. I think it makes a lot of sense for them. Evan Ingram coming on board, I can tell you he's one of the best workers that I've seen.
Yeah, that's right.
I had a chance to watch him in Jacksonville. And don't be fooled by the yards per catch thing. Some of that was designed of the offense. He still can get down the seam. He still is a reliable and dependable chain mover. And he has some juice still to him. He can be a bit of a matchup problem on the perimeter. Sean Payton had talked about wanting a joker type. Someone that he can move around and create and exploit mismatches. Evan Ingram can fill the bill. And now it frees them in the first round. And running back all day. Get a running back, get a playmaker, get somebody else that can put points on the board. Because to close the gap on the competition, it still is going to be a bit of an arms race offensively. Defensively, they've shown that they can play. Vance Joseph did a great job last season. Offensively, they got to figure out how to close the gap.
Yep. I'm with you. And there's still a little bit more to go. There's still some big names out there to go. I'm sure you and DJ will be hitting on those. But once that Aaron Rodgers domino falls, then a few more pieces may fall in place.
For sure. That was this week's Hot or Not segment brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Store more and do more with your data. Try for free at wasabi.com. LZ, man, I know you're busy. I know you're about to have to jump on the tube and give some insight to the insider. So I'm going to let you cut right now. But I know real soon we'll be able to get back on here and talk about some draft stuff because I really want to know, and you can save this, Will Campbell, are his arms too short? Is he too short to be a premier tackle? We have to talk about that on the next time. Until then, I'm Bucky Brooks. That's Lance Z. This was Move the Six. We'll chat with you.